Good morning and welcome to another edition with Coffee with Curare. And today we're going to be talking about questions that we've gotten from recruiters and physicians over the last couple weeks, physicians that we've been working with through our recruiters. And I'm here today with Ian Sons, one of our managing consultants, and I'm Jerry Ramusek, CEO. Hope you've had a great week, and we're going to dive right into the questions. First question of the week was, I'm going on my first interview next week. What are your top 5 interview tips?
Oh, well, I've got one I'll start off with. Always make sure you've got a couple of questions prepared, whatever it might be. No one wants to feel like they're interviewing you and it's like pulling teeth to get information out. And there's going to be a point in the interview where they say, do you have any questions for us? You want to have something to ask at that point instead of just sitting there and being like, no. So, very important. Have a few prepared questions.
One of mine is, it actually isn't the interview, it's the pre-interview, preparation. Be prepared for your interview. That means know what you're getting into when you go to the interview, whether you're working through a recruiter or on your own. Make sure that what your expectations are and what the client's expectations are, your employer's expectations are pretty similar in nature, because you can maybe like each other over the phone, but you might gloss over some of the details that could be total deal breakers for you. And by going on that interview, you'd be wasting your future employer's time and your own time. So one of mine is pre-interview prep. Make sure that you prep for your interview very well and that you know what you're getting into. Another big one, which might not seem that big, but is rather obvious, and we had a real-world example of it yesterday, is be on time. Be on time for your first meeting, whatever that itinerary is. Give yourself an extended period of time to get there. Show up early. You only get one chance to make a first impression. Yesterday we had a candidate supposed to be at the interview at 11. She called us at about 10:45. There was an accident in front of her. She was running late, and we called the client, made everything okay, and it was great because she kept us all informed. So if something does happen, just make sure you get in touch with people before they're there waiting on you in person and you're not showing up. Because it's really not that big of a deal in most cases, but if you don't keep us informed or keep your employer informed, then it could snowball.
Yeah, missed expectations could create a problem. Another one that I always like to give, and this might sound a little silly, but it's have some compliments ready to go for things that you notice while you're there at the interview. Could be as simple as you're going through the office and you notice they've got some really nice artwork on the walls. It could be that everyone that you've met that day has been extremely friendly and shakes your hand and greets you kindly. Honestly, it could be anything. You could see someone with a really nice pair of shoes and you want to compliment them on that. It doesn't matter. But the point of this is it shows that you're engaged, shows that you're paying attention, shows that you want to be there and you're enjoying your time. And those are the types of impressions that you need to make when you're on an interview.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if I've told you this yet either, but that's a very nice jacket you have.
Thank you. Thank you. It's also very soft.
Excellent, excellent. and finally, I think that's 4. So the 5th would be ask for the job. If you like what you see, close the interview on a positive note by saying you'd like to take the next steps forward, you'd like to see an agreement, you'd like to see an offer. Just because you ask for an offer does not mean this is where you're going to end up, but it gives you something to review, something to compare other offers to, and puts you in control of your situation and your destiny. So those are 5 great tips, I think.
Definitely.
Next question is, I am a 2018 resident. When should I start looking for a job?
I'll take this one. I think really right about now is an appropriate time. I would say that most employers are going to be looking about a year out for when they need to recruit somebody. Ideally, sometimes things sneak up on you. Somebody retires unexpectedly. Someone, worst case scenario, is terminated from their job. Whatever it might be, there could be a reason to recruit quickly. But ordinarily, hospitals, employers, they're conducting community needs assessments. They're trying to determine how many providers they need based on specialty and based on the service provider to population ratio. And so they want to give themselves time to interview applicants, decide who they feel is best, give that person time to obtain a medical license in the state. There's a lot of steps involved. Credentialing with the hospital usually is going to take about 60 to 90 days approximately. And so all these things are kind of built into that timetable. So I think really looking about a year before you need a job, before you're going to complete your training, is the best time to do it. Right now, we're kind of bordering on maybe a little too soon, but what I would say is that if you have narrowed your focus and you've said, I'm definitely relocating to a certain area, it's not a matter of if, but when, then that's the time when you would want to get started as early as possible. in terms of identifying the best positions, because chances are an employer would rather have you working for them than for their competitor. So if they can get a leg up on someone who's zeroed in on a location, they're going to take advantage of that.
Statistically speaking, we've placed about 70 physicians this year, and 3 of them have been 2018 graduates. So we're in that market already, and we're getting offers for 2018 graduates, and like Ian said, there's many clients planning ahead. And all 3 of those, I believe, got pretty fair stipends of anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 a month to commit early. So that's another reason why you might want to commit early, because some of your future employers will provide you with a monthly stipend to help you get through your residency and help the financial burden that you might have with your current student loan debt. Next question is, I just found out I didn't get credentialed. What happens now? This is a good one, actually. This happened recently as well in our position, and it's a tough blow, really. I mean, there's various reasons for not getting credentialed. The most recent example that came to light was we don't even know why the guy didn't get credentialed. The credentialing board is keeping it confidential and has told the physician that they're not even going to tell him. And in this case, I think what happened was they've asked him to remove his application, and it's actually a favor to him. They asked him to remove the application so the negative report of him not getting credentialed doesn't have to go on his national practitioner's data bank. And that's something that we see sometimes. If for some reason they can't get credentialed, instead of reporting it and moving it forward, they just remove the application as though it's never really occurred. So it's actually, that's what I've seen happen, and then unfortunately you have to start over.
Yeah, it can be a tough situation, like you said. I think it can deal quite a blow, in particular if you've signed an employment agreement, your expectation is you're beginning work. Worst case scenario, maybe you've already given notice at your current employer, and you've relocated and you're ready to start working, and then all of a sudden you find out about this. Although it's rare, it does happen. But the good news is that there are going to be other options for you available, and so it's just a matter of you doing your due diligence and ideally reaching out to some of our consultants, and we'll be able to help.
Help! I'm a 2017 resident and I haven't found a job yet. What should I do? Panic! No, I'm just kidding. Don't panic. It's April 20th today, and so you're finishing your training more than likely around June 30th. You have a couple months left, and we're seeing it more and more. I've been in this business now for 20 years. 20 years ago, April 20th, almost every resident was locked in for the summer already. Over the course of the last 5 years in particular, that date has really pushed further and further back. Now, do most 2017 residents have their positions locked up right now? Most of them do, yes. But I would probably guess that there's at least 10 to 15% of physicians out there that are graduating this summer, whether it be from residency programs or fellowships, that don't have their positions yet for various reasons. It could be as simple as they were waiting on a fellowship acceptance that never came. And so there's a lot of things out there that would prevent you from having a job by now. And the key is not to panic. You're still a major asset. There's a ton of opportunities out there, and there's plenty for you to choose from, and you're going to find the right opportunity for you, and we'd be glad to help you along that route. Anything to add to that one?
I think that, like you said, don't be too concerned. There's still a tremendous amount of positions available for you, but really it's a matter of you just trying to focus, and I think we all know that looking for a job can be a full-time job in and of itself. The fact that you are in your final months of your residency or fellowship training, that's always a very hectic time for you. So I would certainly advise, if you are in this position, to get in touch with recruiters, let Curare help you. We can handle most of the legwork to make this an easier process for you so you're not as stressed out about it.
That's a really good point, because you really don't have a lot of time to look at 30 jobs right now. You want to focus on your top 4 and interview at 2, pick one.
Yep.
And finally, last question of the day is, when is the right time to apply for a medical license when I'm not sure where I'm going to end up?
Oh. Well, I'll take that one. I think that in many ways that's going to be dependent upon the location of the job. I know that applying for a medical license does cost money. It's not free, regrettably, and so there is some time and expense involved in doing so. However, there are a number of states where if you want to look for a job there and have yet to even apply for a medical license, employers, I think, are going to question how serious you are about working there, because they know it's probably going to take 4, maybe even as long as 6 months to get a medical license. States like Florida, Texas, California, Those are kind of the prime examples in my mind of states that take an extremely lengthy amount of time. Texas even requires a jurisprudence exam to gain licensure in their state. So, these are things to keep in mind, but in general what I would say is if you're looking at multiple areas, you don't want to go out and just apply for every state medical license that is available. Try and zero in on some specific jobs that you like. Once you've talked with somebody, and in particular if you've interviewed there and you feel like there's strong potential for that job, I would suggest you go ahead and apply at that time. That ensures there's not going to be an obstacle for you starting when you want to, when the practice needs you to start. And like I talked about a little bit earlier, things like credentialing take some time, so that's kind of built into the process. So you should expect that once you sign a contract, you're probably at least 3 months away from starting, depending upon the opportunity. There are certainly exceptions. But given that, I think most state licensures take 90 to 120 days with some exceptions. You should be right in that area where you're going to be okay for your start date.
Great advice. Can't add anything to that. And that's going to do it today for Coffee with Curare. We'll be back this time next week, next Wednesday. We'll see you then. If you have any questions between now and then, send them on over to info@physicianrecruiting.com. If you need help with candidates or with opportunities, give us a call, 800-880-2028, and we'll be here to help you out. Have a great week.